Welcome, everybody, to this evening's webinar. My name is Danny Spiro. I am the Dean of the School of Professional Programs here at Marist College. And thank you for joining the Spring 2018 Virtual Open House with President David Yellen of Marist College. Thank you very much for joining us this evening, David.
Sure thing, Danny.
Meeting our online and in virtual space, meeting our graduate and non-traditional adult undergraduate students. Tonight's session, we've scheduled an hour. We won't run beyond that, but depending on the questions that are posed this evening, I know David's happy to answer those, and if there's anything that I can answer, I'd be happy to fill that in too. We're joined this evening by those of you who have logged in to pose your questions by Jen Becker, who's the Assistant Director of Student Services for the School Professional Program. So she'll be typing responses to you to manage the calls. And just to allow a few more minutes for some people to log on, as well as maybe to plant some seeds that you could possibly have of interest for questions, to generate some questions for David. I thought maybe I'd begin with a few questions for David to kick things off. Many of you might know, if you've been following all the various social media and following the website for Marist College, that earlier this year, the new strategic plan, the 2018 to 2023 strategic plan for Marist College was released. And I thought we'd ask David a few questions about that, considering it's for the next 5 years. And of course, I'm sorry I skipped over any opening comments you'd like to make, David, so feel free to...
No, let's just get right to it.
Okay.
Hi, everybody.
So, David, the last strategic plan we had was a 5-year plan, and this one, as the date suggests, is another 5-year plan. Maybe you could start by giving us a sense of the process that led to the creation of this plan, and then we can look at the content of what's actually in there.
Sure. Strategic plans at colleges and universities are typically 5 years. It's a good time frame where you can plan out some major initiatives and still have time to adapt, and the world will be a lot different in 5 years, so then it'll be time for a new one. What we did was we appointed about a 30-member committee. It was co-chaired by Jeff Brackett, who's our Executive Vice President, and Maura Fitzgibbons, who's an English professor. And the committee had about 30 members, very diverse group, faculty, staff, student government leader, alumni, and trustees. And we began by assessing the last plan and examining what the college had accomplished, what was left undone from that plan. We did sort of an assessment of the higher ed lay of the land today. And then we began thinking about what initiatives we might want to focus on principally in the next 5 years. So the process went on for about a year. And we had open listening sessions all across campus where lots of people participated. And we did many refinements of the ideas that were developing over that time. And ultimately, a plan was drafted and approved by the committee and ultimately by our Board of Trustees.
Mm-hmm. And it was officially released in February, is that right?
I believe November it was approved, but then with the holidays, you know, it kind of a slow rollout. And we're actually now just really getting to the implementation phase. And one of the things we're going to do that people might be interested in is we're creating a new committee, we're going to set aside some money each year of the plan, about $200,000 budgeted money, for strategic initiatives pegged to one or more of the goals of the plan. And we're going to put out an open call, basically, to the campus community. Anyone or any group of people who have an idea for something that they think would further some of the important goals of the plan can write it up and develop their proposal, and it'll be assessed by a committee who will make recommendations to the vice presidents and me, and we'll fund things each year that could come from one or more faculty members, one or more staff members, students, and so it'll be kind of a grassroots approach to one piece of our strategic direction.
Well, that's a great idea to get where the action is, to get the direct feedback. Now, the strategic plan itself is divided into 3 themes. Perhaps you could give us an overview of each of those themes and what the hope is they would capture.
Sure. The 3 themes are ensuring student success, promoting innovation, and advancing the social good. And to just talk briefly about each of them, it's not a radical idea that we care a lot about student success. It is our main raison d'etre as a college, but we want it to be front and center because we need to constantly be assessing across all of our curricular areas, what are the main things we want to accomplish? What do we want Marist students to have learned, or at least begun to learn by the time they graduate from a very wide range of degree programs and disciplines. So student success, that piece of the plan involves identifying the core competencies that we want our students to assemble before they graduate, getting all the academic units involved in developing those core competencies in individual courses and majors and minors and departmental level programs as well. We are also focusing on things like developing individualized plans for students. Our students nowadays are generally coming here thinking, even if they don't know what they want to do when they finish, they're thinking much more than my generation of students did from day one about developing a plan of what they want their career path to be. So we believe very much in broad-based liberal learning, but we know that students are thinking about this career progression from a pretty early age, pretty early stage. That's with the undergraduates. Obviously with our adult students and our graduate students, they're further along in that process anyway, but we want to focus on providing the right level of resources, and that involves career services, it can involve technology, it involves people across campus in helping ensure that students develop an educational program that is what they want and is what's right for them. We also want to focus on lifelong learning. We want every Marist student to feel like as they go through their life and career and they need more education for a new career or a change in their field or all the reasons that people keep getting educated today, we want to be a place that can provide that for them throughout their lives. So that's student success. Second piece is innovation. And that includes but isn't limited to technology. Technology provides all kinds of wonderful opportunities, everything from fully online degree programs or blended degree programs, both of which we have, but both of which we want to expand in the coming years. We want to use technology to assist students more. We're in the fairly early stage of this, but as you know, we have some really good tools now to identify students at risk from early performance in courses, to develop intervention plans to ensure that they have the best chance to succeed later on. So we want to be innovative on the academic side. We also want to be innovative on the operational side to make Marist more efficient, to make it more conducive to ideas that people have all across campus getting implemented. So that's the innovation piece of the plan, and the third is advancing the social good. And this comes from our Marist Brother founders. The values of the college include service to others. And so we want to do our part to make our communities and our world a better place. And that involves everything from the immense amount of volunteer work that our faculty, staff, and students do in the community, to really actively trying to become a more diverse and inclusive community. We've joined a group called the American Talent Initiative that's trying to promote to get collectively among many of the most successful in terms of graduation rates colleges in the country to help graduate far more young people from lower socioeconomic backgrounds. So we're committed to that. There's a piece about environmental sustainability in the plan as part of the social good side of things. So those are the three main prongs.
Well, that's, certainly collectively, it's a comprehensive plan, and I know in hearing you speak about it, the plan itself is positioned to provide guidance, but as you talked about, the bubbling up ideas, as well as all of us involved with day-to-day operations and making the college work, a lot of those ideas have to come somewhere, but at least there's guidance and themes in which they can fit.
Yeah, we wanted to make it a high-level plan, not a very detailed operational
Right.
plan, and then push out the operational decisions to the deans and vice presidents and faculty members and students and alumni, and make it be as democratic a process as is possible. So it's very readable if anyone wants to check it out online, and love to know what you think about it.
Yes, it can be found right on the Marist College landing page, its homepage. There's a link at the bottom for the strategic plan. And as you said, it's downloadable and very accessible document. Jen, do we, well, we don't have any questions yet, but I would certainly encourage those of you who are logged on, thinking about David's description of the strategic plan, to think about some questions, how they would affect your program, and you think about attracting other students to the college. One of the things, if I come back to one of the 3 points, talked about innovation. In the innovation section, there's specifically some discussion about adult students, and this is our audience this evening. And certainly one of the things that you were talking about before, we do have fully online programs, and that is an area where we're trying to grow the breadth of those programs. Is there specific opportunities that you think that the online programs might provide, maybe whether it's geographic or from a certain sort of focus for a degree?
Sure. Most of the good ideas on this come from you and your fellow deans, so I should be asking you this question, but to give it a shot, we want to continue to grow Marist College, grow our footprint, grow our reputation, and the size of the on-campus residential undergraduate population, which we're very happy with, we see that as a pretty stable number going forward. And so to the extent there's going to be growth, it's going to be more likely in the graduate program, the adult education, and through distance learning, and potentially in other sites. So it all fits in, very neatly with our long-term strategy. The people out in the working world need ongoing, continuing education more than ever in our history. So there's a really good market for smartly designed, adaptable, flexible programs in really every field of where the economy has a lot of jobs and changing fields. So if you're talking about technology, cybersecurity and all kinds of other fields like that. In the business world, whether it's an MBA or a certificate program, in the health sciences, immense change and opportunity there. So we really want to continue to develop everything from certificate programs to full degree programs to meet the needs of our current and prospective students. We think the best opportunities for that are a combination of distance learning, whether fully online or blended, which I'm a big fan of blended learning, where you come together sometimes in person and do a lot of the work on your own pace. It really, when done right, it can be the best of both worlds. We're also looking to expand our presence in New York City in both of these ways, both in terms of on-ground programs and also blended degree programs, because so many of our prospective students, so many of the people out there who love what we do in cybersecurity or fashion or business and public administration are located in or around New York City. So we think there's a lot of growth opportunity there.
Well, we have a question that Jen could synopsize for us. Jen, what are one of our viewers asking?
I actually have 2 questions. So I'll start with the first one, kind of related to the 3 themes of the strategic plan. Student David posts, as an adult student, it's been very difficult to interact with faculty advisors, some of us never stepping on campus. How do you feel our new strategic plan might lead to improvements in this problem with our adult students?
Yeah, it's something we have talked about, but we need to do more work, frankly, on it. But if you think about what's going on in the private sector, the use of technology, it's getting much more accessible while you're on a computer to get personalized responses from companies rather than just there's a website, you can order what you want or not. Now you can chat with people to ask follow-up questions. And we need to implement more of that in our online and blended degree programs for sure.
Well, I think in particular with advising and with the faculty advising, trying to use that technology to get two busy groups of people, our working adult students and our busy faculty together, there's all kinds of opportunities that can facilitate that. So it's in the works.
The ideal is synchronous. You know, you get your question answered as soon as you ask it. That's a little challenging when you're talking about, you know, a faculty member teaching a course when students in an online situation may be doing the work at 2 in the morning or 2 in the afternoon or anywhere in between. So there may have to be some flexibility involved and not always, you know, the goal ought to be to get all questions answered within a day. They can't all be answered right away.
Thanks. You said you had a second question, Jen.
Well, it sounds like you already answered it. The second question was just talking about how this technology could be used by the faculty to further innovate some of these interactions, if you had any thoughts on that.
Yeah, Danny, maybe you have a couple of comments on that as well.
You know, we're fortunate. We have a very skilled and enthusiastic group in our digital education group, which is there to support faculty in both the design and the delivery of our online and hybrid courses. And they're always pushing forward the envelope in what we can do in our courses and basically in motivating faculty to embrace new opportunities, experiment, and try new things. In particular, one of the things that we've been talking about, for example, in the school professional programs, and is expanding the use of video as a discussion format within the shell of a course, within a discussion thread. We're still working on that. We hope to roll it out in the not too distant future, but a lot of evidence shows that having discussion threads with video components is more compelling, more engaging than text-based threads alone. So there's the enabling of the platform itself and encouraging the faculty to experiment with different techniques, and all of that work is moving the bar forward.
Great.
Right. Thank you, Jen. You mentioned New York. Maybe we can just come back to that for a moment. You know, speaking as someone who's been at Marist a little over 2 years, one of the things certainly attracted me was, especially with responsibilities for adult and continuing education, was the proximity to that wonderful market, big complex market perhaps, but still one of the greatest sort of population bases that any university could hope to have in our backyard, so to speak. And the opportunities to expand our footprint, our reputation, our visibility, and programming in New York City is very appealing, especially in the continuing education space. If we thinking about broadly what a footprint in New York City or elevating our visibility in New York City, beyond accessibility for programming, are there other benefits that you can imagine for Marist College?
Sure. You know, what we've been doing, as you know, is assessing both the academic side, what programs are best suited to being launched in some additional way in New York once we go that direction. And meanwhile, we're looking to identify the right space for us in New York. And those things are both coming together. It'll take a little more time, but we will get that done before long and start launching new programs there. And then, you know, once we have physical space, it's just going to be great. So many of our graduates are in New York. To have a space that's ours to be able to use for everything from student recruiting events to current students meeting with alumni and others for mentoring and other purposes like that, to bringing in speakers who can find it much easier to get to Midtown than to Poughkeepsie, and alumni events and a whole range of things. We think it'll really be a home run for us, and we'll just sort of expand, as you say, our footprint and our academic programs in a really meaningful way.
Well, you mentioned a little earlier also about, in the context of student success, the continuous learning or lifelong learning. And given the concentration of Marist alums in the metropolitan New York City area, there's certainly, with a space of our own, there would be great opportunities for short programming or even evening events as short as something like that to help contribute to continuous learning.
Right, exactly. And so those are all the things that are being planned now.
Well, I'm very excited about that, as I'm sure it shows. Jen, we have another question.
We do have another question. How does Marist plan to deal with the challenge presented by the Excelsior initiative in New York State with the Suny school system?
Sure. For anyone who's not familiar with it, Excelsior is a now year-old program where Suny, State University of New York schools, are free to undergraduates whose parents earn less than, I think now it's $100,000 or $110,000, and the plan is for it to go up to $125,000. So it's a means of creating greater access. Sort of the lower income levels were already essentially free due to various programs that were already in place, but Excelsior definitely expands that to a higher income group for whom college affordability is a challenge. So the goal's a great one. There are some challenges with the program for the Suny schools. You know, their budgets haven't increased, and they have to deal with the growth in student population that seems to be coming. For private colleges, you know, we're not directly involved in this program. We already provide very significant financial aid to our students, and we'll continue to do that, and are actually looking to grow. One of our main priorities, back to the strategic plan, one of our main priorities is fundraising to support more need-based financial aid. So the Excelsior program does a lot of great things for the people of the state of New York. Some private colleges are seeing downturns in their applications. We haven't seen that happen to us, and our job is to continue to be offering such desirable programming that either people who can afford it will still choose to come here, or we expand our financial aid to help people for whom it's more of an economic struggle.
Mm-hmm. Well, we were talking about New York City and building a facility for ourselves there. I guess a little more immediate, talking about building, is for those of the people who are on this evening who have a chance to visit the Poughkeepsie campus of Marist College every once in a while, you almost need a hard hat when you walk around here because of all the construction that's going on here on campus. Maybe you could give us a sense of some of the projects that are underway, David, and what's hoped for them.
Yeah, it's, you know, I so regularly see alums who are back for the first time in 10 or 20 years, and they're kind of blown away by what the campus looks like nowadays. For some of our students and prospective students watching this, they may never have been here, and I really encourage everyone to visit. It's a strikingly dramatic setting to begin with, on this beautiful hilly area overlooking the Hudson River. And then the man-made part of it, this has become one of the truly magnificent college campuses. And just recently, we finished 4 new dorms up on the north end of campus, which include their own dining facility and own fitness facility, all apartment-style living in those dorms, way better than anything I ever experienced as an undergraduate. Now we're well underway with renovation and major expansion of our steel plant studios building, which had been the home to the art department, and they'll move back in there, and our very important fashion program will be moving over there as well. And this is an old industrial building that's being expanded and incorporating lots of technology, and it's a visually striking building. It's going to be a real signature piece on campus. Then we're going to be doing also a major renovation and addition to the McCann Center, our athletic facility, and then we have other things queued up after that. So it's a never-ending process to keep the campus improving and being really attractive and inviting to alumni and to traditional students. So come visit.
Yes, by all means. And in fact, we have coming up in just a few weeks from now, and many of you might be already registered for it, is the spring commencement ceremony. And in some cases, for our adult undergraduate students or our graduate students, that in many cases is the first or one of few times they had a chance to visit campus. So for those of you who are planning to walk next month, and haven't been here on a regular basis, be prepared for the reaction that David was suggesting for people that don't come often, that the campus is changing on almost a daily basis with new construction going up. And of course it raises the profile and ultimately reputation of Marist College, and for all of us who are stakeholders in that. On the topic of coming back to the strategic plan, to think about some elements of that, in the social good topic, you mentioned obviously things about making sure we have as diverse and inclusive an environment as possible, community rather, as possible. I know that included in those initiatives are also things that are environmentally conscious as well, and sort of in a green sense.
Right.
Is there some particular initiative that you could highlight in that regard of social
Sure.
good?
There's a lot going on that front. When I got here just under 2 years ago, there was such a hunger among students and faculty and staff as well to do more on the environmental side. One thing we did was created a community garden on campus behind the student center, where students are overseeing the growing of vegetables that are being used in the dining facilities, and that's a really nice starting point, and the students are doing a great job with that. We're constantly evaluating, as we do new construction especially, what green technologies we can implement. And we have a working group studying, forward-looking and potentially retrofitting some of the older facilities. And that's an ongoing project as well. We also just acquired a farm, which wasn't planned, but it's a wonderful addition to the college. Sprout Creek Farm was a private, independent, nonprofit farm located just about 20 minutes from campus. And at the end of the day, they donated it to us. So it's now part of Marist College. And the farm is a working farm. The main agricultural product is cheese, award-winning cheese, with there are baby goats and baby calves that were just born recently. And anyone in the area, I definitely encourage you to go out there. If you haven't spent time around baby goats, you'll be really shocked how warm and cuddly they are, how much like little puppies they are. And they grow up to produce great cheese for us. And then the other main activity out there are camps and other educational programs aimed at young people to teach them about agriculture, sustainability, nature. And we're going to continue both of those operations, the agricultural side and the educational side, as we then more completely integrate those programs into Marist College. Our students and faculty and staff will have multiple ways to contribute to the work being done out there. So business students may get involved in the business planning of those aspects of the farm. Students who are studying and interested in child development, for example, can get involved in the camps. And students studying environmental science will have a whole range of possibilities. So we're just at the very beginning of developing this as a Marist College asset, so that there's a lot of room for ideas. I expect in the strategic planning implementation process, some other nice ideas are going to bubble up. But it's a really charming, exciting addition to what makes up Marist College today.
And I'm not sure, in case you mentioned the name, I'll just repeat it. It's Sprout Creek Farm.
Sprout Creek Farm, and there's a very nice website. You can check it out.
Great. Well, it's it's certainly in keeping with the green footprint or strategic direction of the college, but rather unexpected part of the college.
Yeah, that's one of the fun things about a place like this. You have your plans, and then other things sometimes just come up, and you adapt if it makes sense for the direction of the school.
Great. Well, just Jen says we have another question, and just before we ask Jen to read the question, I want to thank those of you who are writing your questions and encourage more. This is a great opportunity to speak with David, and I certainly think if there's anything on your mind, David's willing to answer your question. So, yes, Jen, what's the question?
Sure, we're going to go back a little bit when you mentioned funding earlier as part of the strategic plan for new ideas. do you have any plans to implement some kind of innovation center to direct these ideas forward? And where does the Payne Mansion fit into any of this?
Great question, thank you. Yeah, one of the ideas that one of the members of the Strategic Planning Committee had was to develop an innovation center. And we will do that as kind of an umbrella way to be. This is separate from the funding mechanism that I talked about for ideas, that could come from anywhere on campus. In addition to that, we want to have a slightly more structured innovation center to be interdisciplinary, focused on the academic side. And again, that's in the fairly early stages of being developed and implemented. In terms of the Payne Mansion, the Payne Mansion is sort of the literal and figurative home of our Leadership Institute. We use it pretty regularly, as you know, for lots of fascinating speakers and programs that we have on campus. We hold some of the special ones over there, and we're going to continue to do that. We also want to further develop our Leadership Institute. And over the summer, we'll probably hire a director of that program, and again, look to be very interdisciplinary from the different. Leadership can be in the business sector, it can be in child development, it can be in technology. So we want to keep the focus on the thread of leadership throughout everything we do at the college. And the Payne Mansion remains a spectacular place to host sort of really signature events.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a good point you raised, that leadership as a topic or as a discipline certainly lives at different places in the college. For many of the students in the professional studies or previously labeled liberal studies major, for example, you know that organizational leadership is actually an area of study now, a concentration within that major. So part of many of the adult students touch upon leadership as well. So the extent to which Payne Mansion and the Leadership Center there is sort of the lightning rod to pull it all together is certainly...
right, and our adult students are, a great audience and resource in that, because people who've been out in the working world are in positions of leadership or aspiring to further positions of leadership. We all learn from each other.
Yeah. Well, again, I'd like to encourage those of you who are listening tonight to post some questions to David, or if there's anything I can answer, but you can always get hold of me. But please do post some questions to David. The part of what we're looking at with new program development and coming back to innovation, I know that just at the beginning of 2018, for example, we launched the Doctor of Physical Therapy, or DPT program, at our School of Science, which is the first doctoral degree program at Marist College. And you mentioned the cybersecurity major that's underway. I could certainly speak about what's going on in our adult students, but is there any other things that you're aware of that you'd like to share with
really
today?
Every school at the college is developing new programs. We're going to have a new Master's in Fashion program, the cybersecurity, which I guess is a minor right now, heading towards a major later on. So, one of the great things is how every area of the college is thinking about new programming.
Right. Well, one of the aspects that you might not be aware of, so I'll share with you, is that we've had always an inquiry from a subset of the adult students about study abroad opportunities, because Marist, aside from having a very high profile campus in Italy, in Florence, we have a very high participation rate in our traditional undergraduate students in study abroad. We're almost off the scale compared to most programs or most schools with regard to their traditional undergraduate students. So we've had a lot of inquiries about configuring the study abroad opportunity for our adult undergraduate students, and we are in the process of making a program like that available for spring break in the next academic year. So we'll hope that it'll fit inside a window that our working adult students can fit into their schedules. And currently it's proposed, it hasn't quite been finalized yet, but it would be focused on the Dominican Republic with elements of both culture and language and history. feeding through the themes of that course. So I thought, let you know. So.
Yeah, that I did not know about that, and that sounds great. We have to try and be creative to incorporate those kinds of experiences for the adult student population, all of whom are busy with other things. And so, week-long sort of thing, something not too far from continental U.S., that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Well, it's we're trying to make sure that we're living up to the themes of the strategic plan and thinking about how to be innovative, even if it means make the innovation is not necessarily creating something that we haven't done before, but making it accessible for an audience that we haven't.
That's an important, that's a critically important type of innovation. It's not just new. Mm-hmm. It's how do we do what we've been doing better, more appropriately for today.
Right.
I do have another.
Yes, Jen has another question.
So, in a negative social climate of late, your strength and leadership for social good is notable. Can you comment on ways to continue to foster this within the Marist community?
Well, our community at Marist is very socially aware and very engaged in the community. And I'm not sure, the first part of that question, what was the phrase they used?
I had to paraphrase a little here, but in a negative social climate.
Yeah, so I don't know exactly what the writer means. It could be talking about broader societal things or political things or some of the things that are happening on some campuses. But we have a very positive environment here. There are people all across the political spectrum, of course, like in any diverse community, but people treat each other with respect and they listen to each other. And people all across the spectrum want to contribute to a better society. And, people, no matter what their political views, often agree on many things about what makes for a better society. So, for example, everyone I talk to here at Marist, feels like the more we can work with the city of Poughkeepsie to create better economic circumstances there and better learning environment for the kids of Poughkeepsie, and so many different student groups are looking for ways to contribute to that. So it's really about marshaling that energy and maybe coming up with a couple of signature initiatives. But I'm very proud of the people of Marist, how they care about the community. So there's no, we have problems like every other human institution in the world, but there's not a negative social environment here, and we try and model that.
Mm-hmm.
As a follow-up, if I may ask, we're doing this session for our non-traditional population. In some of these forums with the residential students, what are some of their maybe thematic burning questions that they've had for you? I'd be curious to share with this population.
Yeah, so I my job takes me in a lot of different directions, but I do try and keep in touch with what our traditional undergraduate students are thinking and what they're interested in. So as you know, Danny, I do regular town hall meetings and have open student office hours, and young people come in, talk to me about all kinds of things, or come to the town halls and ask about all kinds of things. And they're looking for programs that are flexible and relevant to what they're looking for in their education and in their life. Lots of the young people who come in to talk to me are looking for ways to further having Marist contribute to the community. I mean, that's a really recurrent theme in the visitors I get in my office hours, student groups on environmental issues or working with Poughkeepsie school kids and things like that. So those are probably the main things, how can the educational program be made to be more appropriate for what they're looking for, and how can we as a community, the Marist community, do more to help the broader community.
Well, those are two great themes.
Yeah.
It's interesting, you talk about the first one of those themes about accessibility and flexibility and helping even the traditional students manage their time commitments to being successful at school, but also achieving career-related goals and other goals. An interesting trend that many of our students who are connected tonight, who are online students but working adult students, might be interested to know is the increasing interest of many of our traditional students in taking online courses during the summer and winter intersessions in the spirit of accessibility and flexibility and trying to manage their other goals while they are managing their studies. So I guess in some regards we would predict that would be the case as people become more familiar with technology-facilitated education.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in any traditional college environment, the whole process of course registration and time constraints and conflicting things, it's always been a major issue. And technology makes all of that much more flexible. And so, I think distance learning is probably more suited to an adult population. I mean, our undergraduates are adults, but I mean an older adult population and graduate and professional schools, because so much of the core undergraduate experience is about being in a classroom with your peers and a faculty member. But there's still, even in that setting, there's a lot that can and is beginning to be done to make things more flexible, to have an environment where more feedback can be given along the way to students, which is a critical component. And so technology can be a real enabler of improvements in the educational process.
Well, to put it in context, some of the people who are connected might find this interesting, but during those two intersessions, summer and winter intersessions, where more than 90% of the students who take an online course are in fact traditional students, not our adults and post-traditional students that we're connected to here. In the summer we have about, last summer for example, we had about 800 course seats in summer online courses. And to put that in context, about 90% of those are traditional students, and we have about 4,000 back of the envelope traditional students. So that's a very high participation rate in those online courses by traditional students for all the reasons that you've just described.
Yeah, and it's important to remember just how early on we are in the evolution of distance learning. It's a lot better than it was 10 years ago. But it's changing rapidly, and a whole new generation of faculty, as they come on having been exposed to distance learning at an earlier phase themselves, they'll be a lot more comfortable with it.
Yeah, well, and that's, as you say, every generation becomes a little more comfortable with it.
Right.
Sometimes because of timing differences, the students are pulling us along
Exactly.
into that process.
Thank goodness for that.
Yes. Jen, is there anyone else at the moment?
Not at the moment.
No? Well, we've been going for about almost 45 minutes, David, so I know we said we'd wrap up at an hour on the outside. We want to make sure we've answered everybody's questions. But why don't I invite you, if there's any closing comments that you'd like to make, while people hurry to post their final questions for Jen to read, and maybe we could, in the spirit of wrapping things up, we could...
Sure, yeah. It's been a pleasure to be here with you, Danny, and with our audience. Some really good questions came in, and if others come in later, we can get back to people and get them answers offline. And really appreciate everyone's interest and look forward to, as we implement the strategic plan, to continue to make Marist a bigger and better place. And it's an exciting time for us.
Well, it certainly is. I'm very pleased and happy to be part of the Marist family, and right at the beginning of this strategic plan to be able to make our contribution to the school professional programs to achieving all of those. So let me thank you, David, for your time this evening, and thank all of you who connected this evening. Now, tell your classmates and your friends that the recording of this evening's session will be posted within the next day or so, and we'll be making announcements on web pages and Twitter about how to access that recording. So as we're wrapping up, let me thank Jen Becker, the Assistant Director of Student Services, for help facilitating questions. And let me thank Joey Wall and her entire team behind the camera for making this evening's session with the support here in the studio and our media center work so effectively. So once again, thank you everybody, and have a wonderful evening.